Hi, my name is Ben Chivers and I'm COO at Silverbullet. Splitting that into two, I think first-party data is still key to many businesses' strategies. With the demise of the cookies and everything moving away from that, I think that reduces the element of scale. So in the past, you could have a seed audience of being your first-party data. These would be your customers. You knew everything about them. With cookies, you could then expand that and find people who look like those customers. Now we're looking at using context to do that sort of lookalike functionality. So we would say, I've got a seed audience of these people who are my customers, my consumers, people who are buying my product. I can then understand what context, what pages they're reading, what articles they're interested in, and use that for the lookalike functionality. That gives you the reach that you could previously have with cookies in a compliant, GDPR compliant way going forward. I think the service layer is absolutely essential for helping brands, broadcasters, and technologies understand where they want to go to in the future. So we work on both the supply side with broadcasters, media owners, content owners, and we also work on the demand side, working with the biggest brands in the world. And we also work with the tech providers as well. So we understand what the broadcasters, the content owners, how they want to monetize their content, how they want to interact with their audience. We understand what the brands are asking for and how they want to interact with their consumers. And we also understand the tech capabilities. I don't believe there's a single company out there that works in the same way that we do to help provide that service layer of understanding what's possible, the art of the possible, if you like. And so we can come into companies and we can help them understand how they want to work. We can show them what's possible, and then we can set out a clear strategy for them going forward. So going to a car analogy, you wouldn't really go into you wouldn't come and say, okay, I just need to buy a car. You need to say, okay, I want to buy a Ferrari to drive on a track, or I want to buy a minibus to transport my kids around. Or ultimately, you could be looking at a bus rather than any sort of, or a bike. So using that same analogy, we can help come to the company. We can speak with the content owner or the brand and understand what they need. So we can identify what sort of car or technology they need. And then we can help implement that and customize it accordingly. We can change out the engine. We can add more doors or so forth. We then can help with the managed services, the ongoing sort of training. So we can help them get the most out of their car as well. So we can help them learn to drive really, really well. So that's really how we've been helping in that service layer that we operate, how we've been helping both brands and broadcasters alike. I really love this question because I think going into this, a lot of brands and I would include broadcasters and content owners in this as well. Previously they were saying, okay, I just want one full tech stack that solves multiple solutions. Right now, I think companies need to embrace change and understand going back and understanding what their strategy is, and then aligning their tech platforms accordingly. Mm-hmm. We worked with many companies in the past that have said, okay, well, I just want one suite of solutions, that have one company and they can provide everything. I think now companies are starting to realize that isn't the case, and they need to have a piecemeal solution that allows them to chop and change tech solutions that meet their strategies. We've actively done this with a number of companies where they've purposely built building blocks of tech solutions that they can pull out from 1 year to the next and say, okay, well, I know I'm going to replace this, or I could replace it. And having the ability to change and adapt, I think, is the key thing for businesses going forward. If we look at like the industry verticals that Silverbullet specialize in, so content owners on the supply side, FMCG, and then retail, looking at those specifically, I'd say there's different battles and different areas in which they need to focus on. So for content owners, I think embracing everyone is now a content owner. So traditionally, you looked at the broadcasters like ITV, Channel 4, BBC. They kind of had a bit of a one space that they controlled all the advertising market. Now you've got many digital players coming into that. So Netflix, Amazon are easy examples, but then also anyone can create a content and put it on YouTube. They're then a content owner. Arguably, sports clubs are now content owners where they can start putting in their own content. So letting them understand how they want to monetize that content, how they want to interact with their consumers, and how they can create that personal experience, I think is key. The broadcasts are facing a bit of a battle between their linear legacy and their digital future. So understanding how the broadcasters compete with the Netflix and Googles of the world, and even the YouTubes. Then if you look at the FMCG space, the people in that area are starting to realize that they need to have a one-to-one relationship with consumers. If like if you take some brands that we're working with, like Heineken, for example, you wouldn't normally go to Heineken.com to buy your beer. You would go to a supermarket. So now they're starting to realize, how do we build up that first party data? How do we understand who our consumers are? And then there's ways in which they can do that through events, through gaming, and we can help them understand that and bring in that first party data, so then they can have that one-to-one relationship and they can build on the marketing side of it. And then finally, on the retail space, that's a really interesting area to get to. I think Amazon have led the way in revolutionizing that market, but people are starting to catch up now. So bringing retailers start to become like content owners, and they've got space that they can sell. So you've seen that with ASOS most recently, where they're starting to sell space within their app to other brands. So Nike will start promoting that their space within that, start advertising within the ASOS brand. I think it's a really interesting area to go. Yeah, 100%. So I just relaying this back to a little bit of a story that I recently published an article where my Alexa app really freaked me out. So in the morning, it woke me up saying, "Hey Ben, looks like you're running out of shampoo and conditioner." And for some reason, that completely freaked me out, and I decided not to act on it. It was 100% right, I was, but I don't know how it knew. So I decided not to buy it, and then I've put that off, and it really scared me. I don't know why. That was just a little bit intrusive. I don't know if it was because it was a shower, and but it really, really freaked me out. So I think there needs to be an element of human touch in this to understand, okay, what applies to one person definitely won't apply to another. And so you've got to start understanding consumers on an individual basis. That, to me, there's definitely elements in which automation and data science and computer programming can work in this and understand, okay, well, we can group these customers as one. But I think that human touch is always going to be important. So saying, okay, well, Ben over here, we shouldn't be pushing sort of these automated responses to him because he won't act on it, versus James over here, who definitely will. I think you've got to allow that human element for testing and learning to understand what's working and what isn't. And that's where, like, the self-serve platforms that we're implementing to date, they allow you to test and learn very, very quickly. You can set up A/B tests. You can start understanding which consumers are working, which marketing trends are working here and which aren't over here. But then you can't allow a computer to just set that up and run those automatically. They're not going to have the creative element to be able to sort of think of these tests to run. For those who don't know, Silverbullet is divided into two different areas. You've got, on the one hand, you've got the marketing services space, which is a professional services company helping companies build out the strategies for their data vision, implementing the different tech platforms, and then the ongoing managed services to help them with the running of those platforms. The other side of the business is our products business, which is a 4D contextual targeting engine. And for that over the next year, I see those two elements of the business coming much closer together. So we talked at the very start around how context can help with that scale. And so we can help businesses lay out that strategy around how they're going to use first-party data, what tech platforms they're going to need to have in place. And then we can bring in the 4D contextual engine to help them with that scale. I think now people are starting to realize that they can't just put off how they're going to use first-party data. Excuse me, they can't put off how they're going to use first-party data. They've got to sort of look at what their strategy is for that. They can't put off, cookies are going away, we don't need to worry about that until that comes around. They've got to start embracing that change now. And really that's our vision within Silverbullet. We're able to see, okay, well, we've got this contextual targeting engine that can help you should you need that to get that scale back.